Hello and welcome to the week ahead from the Financial Times in London. Here's what we'll be watching in the coming days. Republican and Democrat presidential candidates will face off in Wisconsin. The clothing retailer H&M reports first quarter results. And we'll have a range of service sector data, including for China and the US. First to the US, where both Republicans and Democrats will vote in the Wisconsin primary on Tuesday. 42 Republican delegates and 96 Democratic delegates are at stake in a race where every win counts. Donald Trump, the Republican frontrunner, was widely criticized last week after saying women who had abortions should be punished. He then backtracked on his comments, but his challengers for the Republican nomination, Ted Cruz and Ohio Governor John Kasich, were quick to criticize Mr. Trump. Here's how Mr. Kasich reacted to Mr. Trump's comments.
It appears as though when he does these events and people press him, he becomes unmoored and then has to spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to correct all the mistakes that he made. And I have to tell you that as a commander-in-chief and leader of the free world, you don't get do-overs. You need to be able to get it right the first time. We know about his comments on abortion, which have put women in a very difficult position, and we know that he has since moved to correct those in one way or another.
Mr. Trump isn't the only one under pressure. The Democratic race is even tighter in Wisconsin, with polls giving Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders a slim lead in the state over Hillary Clinton. Now to the world of retail, where Swedish clothing company H&M is hoping to make gains on its bigger Spanish rival Inditex when it reports first quarter results on Wednesday. H&M has struggled with fierce competition at the cheaper end of the fashion spectrum from the likes of Primark here in the UK and Forever 21 in the US. The Swedish group has already posted first quarter results that were slightly lower than analysts expected, leading to a sell-off of its shares in March. H&M was also forced to deepen its price cuts to shift its winter stock, especially in its home region of Northern Europe.
H&M has struggled to escape from the shadow of Inditex for a long time. It was overtaken by the Spanish owner of Zara in terms of market value in 2011, and in fact now Inditex is worth double the amount of H&M. There are many reasons, but I guess one of the main ones would be that Inditex and Zara has this rather famous sourcing policy of buying its clothes predominantly from Africa, from Europe, whereas H&M buys most of its clothes from Asia. That means not only is Inditex a bit more nimble than H&M, but there's been a currency effect in recent years because the stronger dollar has put pressure on H&M's margins. H&M has also been a bit slower in getting into online, particularly in countries like the US, so there's a lot for H&M to catch up on.
And finally, is global growth this year shaping up to be as bad as some thought? Well, we'll get an indication of that when service sector data for the US and UK is released on Tuesday. Both countries have seen a sharp slowdown in that part of their economies since the end of last year. But March data may offer some respite. Analysts are expecting a rebound in PMIs to 55.4 in the US and 53.4 in the UK. Meanwhile, services data for China are released on Wednesday and will be closely watched by those worried about a slowdown in the country's economy. February's figure of 51.2 remained just above the 50 level that separates growth from contraction. This is what our economics editor Chris Giles has to say about the significance of the figures.
What we're looking for in the PMI figures for March is whether there's an uptick compared with the very bad figures for February. For the US, for China and for the UK, where the numbers are new, that's the big question. We've already had an early indication of the same figures for the Eurozone, and there was an uptick. So perhaps if there is one for these other big economies, that will indicate that the fears about the beginning of the year, this year being a terrible year for the global economy, were slightly overdone. The UK might be a special case because there might be an additional fear about Brexit. So it's also interesting to see whether that decouples from the other big economies or whether it follows the same pattern.
And that's what the week ahead looks like from the Financial Times in London. See you again next time.